Hello again to all subscribers and listeners of this channel. Today, this is going to be a review of the final episode of Attack on Titan Season 2. In this episode that I'm reviewing was entitled Scream. And the scream that this title is referring to is quite a significant scream, to say the least. So let us delve into it. First thoughts. Was worried about the return of the Smiling Titan, Rainer's counterattack to restrict the Scouts' retreat, the hell that everyone was going through, and the mental state of Eren Yeager. All these things were very troubling, but as the episode progressed, I felt sad for Eren, yet happy that our heroes were able to do what they originally planned to do. And then I felt some surprise once I witnessed the very, very end, like literally the last couple of frames of the episode. Very interesting. The episode overall was slightly less than what I wanted it to be in terms of quality, but it still was a very good ending episode for the entirety of Season 2. So, the plot. In the beginning, we see a flashback of Eren and his mother conversing. Eren's mother is telling him to learn self-control, to be strong, and that he should be protecting Mikasa. To this, Eren gets frustrated. It then cuts to Carla Yeager, Eren's mom, and her death scene. From there, it cuts to the present time with the Smiling Titan slowly approaching and injuring Mikasa and Eren. Next, we see Reiner continue his assault on the Scouts by tossing Titans in front of them, blocking their path to retreat. Commander Eren gets saved by Ymir, and more of his scouts are getting devoured by the Titans that Reiner is tossing. We cut back to the Smiling Titan's return as it descends upon Eren and Mikasa. Just as it lunges forward with its attempts to grab the duo, Hannes comes in. He blocks Smiley's hand with his body, cuts off the Titan's thumb. He then tells Eren how he is going to avenge Eren's mother, and then proceeds to assault the Smiling Titan by himself. From here on, we get a very gut-wrenching, intense, and very gory scene that ensues. Very emotional. What happens next is truly saddening, intense, painful, yet transformative. Hannes is not a scout. He's part of the garrison. He's one of the more, what's the word I'm looking for? He's one of the more senior garrisons. That's what he is. He's not an expert at slaying Titans. Not like that. He's not very young, and he spent almost his entire life was revolved around protecting the walls. Specifically Wall Rose and Wall Maria. He's not trained as a scout. We know this, but he decided to go against the Smiling Titan anyway. So, it looks like Smiley, what I'm nicknaming it, was possibly an abnormal. Some of its behavior seemed more logical yet unpredictable compared to the normal Titans. It actually grabbed at Hannes and launched counterattacks against him while he made some successful cuts on his shoulder, on his knee. He sliced off the thumb and finally got a cut on his Achilles tendon until they finally caught him in his hand. We then see Mikasa readily cut Eren's hands loose while Hannes is barely holding on. Eren tries desperately to transform, even ripping off pieces of his own hand in an attempt to go into Titan mode. But he can't do it. Either because Eren is too tense and he's too angry, or he's too exhausted, or he hasn't healed completely, or he hasn't fully mastered control of his Titan transformations. Whatever the case, in this particular instance, Eren could not transform at all. And this left Hannes to be the second person in Eren's life to be devoured by the Smiling Titan, right there in front of Eren's eyes, as Eren stares hopelessly. Hannes dies valiantly against a major Titan that changed the trio's lives forever. Mikasa is still on the ground dealing with her crushed ribs while Eren falls into a fetal position, crying in a heap of anguish and rage. Eren feels useless and pathetic at this point, and he doesn't know what else to do. During this fit of absolute crushing emptiness, this rage, this hopelessness, Mikasa pipes up and says some things to Eren. She tells him that he gave her life meaning. She tells him that he guided her. She thanked him for wrapping her with that scarf, and she thanked him for being there for her, for helping her when she needed it. She seemed to have nothing but joy in her eyes when she said this to him. Now here's the question. Why did Mikasa do this? Why did she say these things to Eren? It could be that she thought that they were done for and she needed to get this out of her heart and into Eren's mind before they die, but we can only guess. Just as they seem to lean into each other, Eren gets up. He faces forward, faces towards the Titan. He promises to wrap the scarf around her as many times as she might need him to. The smiling Titan reaches his hands towards both of them, ready to devour. Eren turns around and screams at the top of his lungs. He lunges violently towards Smiley's outstretched hand, and right when Eren and the smiling Titan's hands touch, what looks like a wave of energy erupts around Eren. At the same time, a Titan, another Titan, a completely different Titan, that was crouching further back behind Mikasa when she was thanking Eren. That Titan leaps forward and spears the smiling Titan into the ground. Right when Eren throws a second punch and makes a second scream. This second punch is also followed by another similar bizarre wave of energy that seems to be surrounding and erupting around Eren and his body. At this point, Ymir, Reiner, and Bertolt feel a surge of energy pass through them right when this happens. And at the same exact time, every Titan in the area stops moving. When they start moving again, they're spinning around and all of them head straight towards the smiling Titan. They all start stampeding towards it. They dogpile Smiley and begin ripping it to pieces, tearing it apart and devouring it. The last we see of the Titan is that the last that we see of the Titan that consumed Eren's mother is of his head being ripped in half, its eye socket being crushed by one of the dozens of Titans that are now eating it. Eren and Mikasa begin running away, but not without confusion as to why the Titans are eating Smiley. And thus is the demise of the smiling Titan, the first Titan that scarred Eren in this war for humanity's survival. While still trying to escape, Eren encounters Bertolt and Reiner again, and as soon as he sees them, he screams at them to stay away. He wants them dead, and he wants them dead painfully. At this moment, just as the Titans finish eating the smiling Titan, the Titan swarm comes over and starts attacking Bertolt and Reiner. Ymir says her last words of goodbye to Historia. She then, to Bertolt and Reiner's surprise, Ymir comes in and basically assists them in terms of fighting against the Titan swarm. In the next scene, the scouts see this as an opening, and probably their last opening that they'll probably ever have. They quickly scoop up Eren, Mikasa, and Historia. They get on their horses and they ride out, leaving Ymir, Reiner, and Bertolt to defend themselves against the Titan swarm. We see a brief flashback of Hannes playing with the trio. We then cut to further along in the episode when we see Hanji, Erwin, Levi, and Connie learning about Connie's village being the origin of the new Titans. We then see Eren and the scouts speculating about Eren's supposed new Titan control power and how he needs to use it to avenge those who died retrieving him. And at the end of this final episode of Season 2, it closes out with different members of the scouting regiment fading in and out in a sequence before we zoom past the wall rows, we zoom all the way into Wall Maria, and we see the Beast Titan in his human form looming over Wall Maria. And the episode ends. Interesting things I noticed. Few things that stood out, both positive and negative. One, so was I the only one that noticed that Armin kept calling Gene Kirsten Sean? Like throughout the episode, I distinctly heard him call him Sean instead of Gene. And I thought that was weird that after all the epic dialogue of episode 11, it looks like someone screwed up the names of the dialogue in episode 12, which is kind of funny. Number 2, Aaron screaming right after Hannes' death seemed a tad muffled to me. So although the acting was top notch by Pappenbrook, it just seems like someone should have tweaked the audio a little bit to make the screams a little more clear. At least that was my perception. Number 3 thing that I noticed, the music that played during the Smiling Titan's demise seemed a tad too low in volume. So another example of what seemed like a slightly off audio mixing. The number 4 thing that I noticed, were the Titan's eyes supposed to turn red, or like I guess it was a good effect. It was just interesting looking that the eyes turned red, and I don't think the eyes were ever red in any other part of the series so far. So I don't know. It was a nice effect though. So, and the number 5 thing I noticed, the Beast Titan's human form is blonde and wears glasses. So it's quite interesting. So hopefully in season 3 we're going to see more of who that character is and what they'll do, whoever they are. Animation. As throughout all the other episodes, every single episode of this season had top-notch animation. Animation was on point. And the most awesome animated scenes in this episode, to me, was when the Smiling Titan got speared by the other Titan after Aaron was screaming. And then the other one that I thought was really nice was the entire sequence of all the Titans rushing in and eating the Smiling Titan. The artwork, the music, the animation, and the CGI used together were just seamlessly pulled together and made that whole entire sequence well done. Very well done. Best about the episode? The best thing about the episode was the entire sequence between Hannes beginning his battle against the Smiling Titan, all the way to Aaron's scream, all the way to the final demise of the Smiling Titan when it was getting devoured. All the way from beginning to end, that was just awesome. Really nice. Worst about the episode? Again, nothing was really bad, but there were some things that were just kind of a little bit off, very small things. The slight awkwardness with the audio mixing, the scream and the scoring just seemed just a tiny little bit off in terms of volume. And then there's the slight awkwardness with Armin distinctly calling Gene Sean. I'm like, that his name is not Sean, it's Gene. So someone made a typo somewhere in the script, it looks like. But again, considering how awesome this episode is and how awesome the entire season was, these little mistakes are very minor and relatively easy to overlook. So, whatever. Favorite scene in this episode? The demise of the Smiling Titan. The entire scene was a very full circle considering what Aaron, Mikasa, and Hannes have been through. It was the first Titan to truly traumatize Aaron. It was the first one to personally take a life away from Aaron, a life that Aaron cared deeply about. Yet the Titan didn't seem conscious of its actions at all. So it killed without knowing it killed. And it also died without knowing that it died. Or so it appears. Also, I think I mentioned this before and I'll mention it again. Right when he's getting ripped apart, something about his face doesn't seem happy. Even though it's smiling, the smiling doesn't seem to actually be a happy smile. It looked a lot more like it was in pain or it was in sadness somehow. And that there is something horrible going on underneath that smile that we may never fully understand. Very interesting. As when I give it a 1 to 10 score, out of a 1 to 10 score, I would give this episode, the final episode of Attack on Titan Season 2, Episode 12, entitled Scream, I'm going to go ahead and give it a 9 out of 10. I would have loved to give it a 10 out of 10, but again, those few awkward things and certain things I think could have been done just slightly better that were just a little bit off, brought it down by a single point. But to me, it was still a good episode either way. Overall, the final episode of season 2 was not quite as good as the episode as I think it should have been. It wasn't quite as good as episode 11, but it was still a good ending to the second season of the anime nonetheless. It had a few little problems in it, a few kinks, but nothing really bad. And throughout the episode, you really did feel the raw emotion that was felt in the episode. It was well put together by the animators, the composers, and the voice actors, especially during certain scenes. The way Eren and Mikasa expressed what they were feeling, the way the Titans made their final advance, the way Ymir went back to help Reiner and Bertolt, and the way the episode ended were all splendid, as far as I'm concerned. Not the best of the 12 episodes, but more than good enough to end it here. Until season 3 at least. So this episode left the viewers really wanting to see season 3 when it comes out. Me personally, I can't wait. That's all for now. Please like, subscribe, share, and donate for more uploads and to support this channel. There will be one more video where I review the entire season 2 in its entirety. That will be the last video in this series, so stay tuned for that. You guys have a great day. I'm out. Peace.